I received several calls from people who were working this evening and couldn't get here and asked could I put comments in. So I said, well, I'll transcribe them from what you tell me as best as I can, which is why you can't read the handwriting. So there are 3 of those. If you want to mark them in some fashion, put the names and the addresses on there. So, and they asked that since they couldn't be here.
So they're not here.
Martha is in, Unagendaed is in Texas, and David is working, and the other lady, I don't know.
Okay, let me just reach out to maybe the clerk and the attorney. What should we do here?
Are we allowed to read them?
I mean,
Well, it's really your discretion. If you want to read comments, you can do that. You don't have to, it's really a discretionary decision.
well, there doesn't seem to be a lot of them. I'm concerned that, you had 50 cards, people who, for whatever
Sure.
reason, couldn't make it, and you set a precedent, then you would have to read into the record 50 cards, but we've only got 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, there were only 3 that came out.
Some discretion of the commission, emails or faxes sent directly to them could be accepted and read into the record.
Okay, well, there's only a couple here, so let's give it a whirl. So if you wrote these, and your spelling or anything is...
Yeah, all errors are the responsibility of the
Okay.
commissioner.
Well, this one, well, actually, if this is in relation to the item that you pulled, then we should wait until it comes up on the agenda then.
Yes, those are, so, yeah, you can have.
You're making it real easy for me. Peter Tim, you're up first, followed by Kate McGivern.
Things are moving along quickly tonight. And yes, unfortunately, tonight I am going to retire from the Lake Forest Commission from these meetings. I don't want to, but as I have said before, I am very disappointed in this commission. It seems that we work for you instead of you working for us. Most of my questions go unanswered. And I have only 2 minutes to speak. That is strictly of course. So I feel the taxpayers of Lake Worth are worth nothing more to you than their walking wallets that you are free to tap into at any time you want. I now feel that things have gotten out of hand, out of control. Our finance director retired, and you hired a new one, but after only 6 months, he quit. All this time, you and the staff were working on the bond issue in the back room, but we didn't know nothing about it. Both finance directors knew all about it, and I wonder if this had anything to do with their leaving. This is not a $10 an hour job, and with the money they make, you would think that they would be happy to have it. So I feel there is more to this story than the taxpayers have been told. And since I think I've used up my 2 minutes, the rest is yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate McGivern.
Hi, Katie McGivern, 2121 Collier Avenue. The September 5th meeting for people who had a difficult time voting was an interesting format. I would like to see the same format for people who want to knock around ideas on how to efficiently get our roads fixed. There were some things we didn't like about the bond, but we still need our roads fixed. As far as the homeless, it is a growing problem. My sister and the other businesses last year got together, invited high-end concierges to Lake Worth, wined them, dined them, showed them our arts community, and then heard nothing from them. My sister touched base back with them, and one of the concierges told her, I won't mention the place, told her point blank, we are not sending our people into Lake Worth. There's been incidents with the homeless, and we will not send our people to Lake Worth. My mom and her friend were attending a funeral for one of their friends at St. Andrew's Episcopal Church off of Lucerne. As they went in, my mom and her friend were basically accosted by a homeless person. So here's 2 80-year-old women going to a funeral of their friend. They can't even do that. I don't see homeless when I go to my friend's house in Palm Beach. I don't see homeless when I go to my friend's house in Stewart. I don't see homeless people when I chance to go down Atlantic Avenue in Delray. This is really getting out of hand. You can throw all the money that you want to at the arts in Lake Worth, and it won't make a bit of difference if people are afraid to come into our city. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have no other comments for public participation, non-agenda items, so we'll move on to the approval of minutes, please, need a motion?
I'd like to comment.
Sure, go ahead.
First of all, the board has decided to actually do some kind of public workshop. We're still working on that for looking at ideas for the infrastructure. You must have missed that meeting. And then as far as concierge, we also hosted the concierges downtown, and I actually just hosted them in Lake Worth a month ago, 2 months ago. And the concierge are still sending people downtown. I get people sent to my store all the time.
This is just what my sister was told by the concierge.
Well, we're not gonna go back and forth, but
And as far as homeless, we are aggressively working on ideas and issues with the homeless, but being homeless is not illegal. I get calls all the time, there's dirty homeless people in the park. Dirty homeless people are homeless. It is not illegal to be dirty and homeless in a public space. So there are laws that apply to you, there are laws that apply to the homeless. And we are aggressively working on issues. We understand we may have more homeless than somewhere else, but again, when I'm downtown West Palm Beach, I do run into homeless. When I'm in downtown Delray, I do run into the homeless. When I travel outside of the city of Lake Worth, I do run into the homeless. So there are groups, some of the same churches, you mentioned a church, some of the same churches are housing them and feeding them. So I feel your frustration. However, there are laws that apply for both you and the homeless, and we are moving forward in ways that we feel that helps both the city of Lake Worth. You know, I am a small business owner, and nothing irritates me more than having people panhandling in front of my store. It's a deterrent for business. However, again, being homeless is not illegal.
any other comments, Commissioner Zerdy?
Thank you. I guess part of the discussion at the NAPC in regards to the homeless was they're trying to come up with a way that they might create little cards. Mr. Rice was there, Strauss was there, that might be handed out with some phone number on there and a link so that those folks might be able to seek out some help directly, give them an alternative to what's going on there. Instead of feeling obligated to give them some money or something, say, here, this might help you, because that's an awkward feeling, and I guess where you feel that it's uncomfortable. So as far as what group is committing other related crimes and all, just like anybody else that has something that come up and we're dealing with, I guess even the sober houses have been correlated to some of that, some other activities as well. So I think that we're looking at that probably in that area with the sober houses, how the definition of treatment is handled in terms of that they're not supposed to have treatment occurring on premises, and the definition of treatment, if it's a group session or someone, may end up being determined to be treatment, so then they could have a level of certification and level of being able to go in and inspect and go on premises. So those are things I think that are in the works. They're all challenging. Everybody has rights, so we're going to make sure we don't start something and trample certain people's rights other than others. And everybody can pitch in and try to help as best they can and direct these folks to some alternative.
Did you have something, Commissioner Point?
I think Commissioner Hammer was.
I just wanted to piggyback, and you had said, you know, the neighborhood association looking at that. Talk to the sheriff's department, because the sheriff's department already has something. You know, when they go out, they actually give card, they give service, but they can't force them to take the service. Also through our utilities department, people call me for different forms of help all the time. In the utility department, they actually have a sheet, and if you are a single mother looking for housing, these are the people that will help you. If you're an elderly person that needs help, these are people that will help you. So we're actually giving out that information. We just can't force the people to actually take it.
Thank you. Couple comments. I'm sorry to see you go, Mr. Tim. You've been, I suspect your attendance is at least as good as my attendance in the 4 years that I've been here. And we haven't always agreed. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But I've always appreciated your dedication to take the time and come to read the backup, to think about things and have an opinion about it. And I think that's part of what makes Lake Worth an interesting community, that you have people who are willing to come. I'm sorry that you feel that it's fallen somewhat on deaf ears, but I've certainly listened and learned some things from it. Like I say, I haven't always agreed, but I certainly have at times. And I thank you for the term that I think will live on, walking wallets. We'll all know that's ascribed to Peter Tim. And then in regard to Ms. McGivern's comment, I think that what was suggested, if I understood correctly, was that at the September 5th meeting where we discussed concerns about how the voting process happened, and I think we did a quite good job of really soliciting input from the community and experiences that people had. It was quite an open, solicited meeting, but it only addressed problems with the voting. And I think there were a lot of people who came to that meeting with the idea that they share the concern for the state of the city and the roads, but they were not convinced at the proposed solutions and would like to offer some additional ideas. And I guess I would encourage us as commissioners to try to set up a meeting that's similarly open and really inviting of just whatever range of ideas we can get to try and do a better job of proposing something that works for a larger majority of the people. So I hope that we will do it in that, as well as we did the September 5th one.
Thank you. I'll start with the possibility of a meeting to address the infrastructure needs. I've spoken with the city manager a number of times since the vote and said, look, we've had 20, 25, 30 meetings, over the course of 2 years, and we've invited the public to participate. Obviously, not everybody was able to attend those 25 or 30 meetings. I'm not reluctant to have such a meeting. However, I think that the meeting needs to take place soon, and there needs to be somewhat of a structured format. And if folks have, if want to give folks, so many minutes, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on how many people want to weigh in, if you will, and they want to give a presentation, because what I'm interested in, frankly, is the financing. It doesn't matter whether we need $1 or $1 billion. If we don't have the money, we have to borrow the money. And ultimately, there has to be a way to generate that dollar or that $1 billion. And that's really what I'm looking for, is the financing mechanism for whatever proposal, whatever dollar value, whatever the tolerance level is, for whatever level of infrastructure upgrades the community wants. We need to identify the financing source. And I think we've beaten that subject pretty readily over the last couple of years. There just aren't a lot of financing, revenues available to us by law. So I'm really anxious to see if somebody's got a creative way that we can come up with a different way to finance some infrastructure programs. So I'm with you. Let's go for it. Let's see if we can work something like that out, in the not too distant future. But we can't spend 8 years talking about it and kicking it around. And at the end of the day, if we're going to if we're going to improve our infrastructure, we need to have a plan of what what's going to get done, how many linear miles are going to get done, how many sidewalks are going to get done, whatever the package looks like, and we're going to have a way to finance it. And we can't spend the next 3 or 4 years debating how much and when. So, if the city manager, if you can report back to us on that in the next couple meetings and see if something reasonable pops up in terms of a time frame. I mean,
well, I'll work with the clerk. The scheduling is kind of tough. What I'm hearing is that we probably need to bring back to the next meeting a discussion specifically about the format of the meeting. And I'll get with each of you, because I know there's unanimity among the group here.
And that may be the case, and I don't I would ask that we have a special workshop on this subject. and not incorporate it in part of a regular meeting, we could be here for a while having that conversation because there's such a diverse, potential opinion on how to get
The
that
only workshop
done.
date I have available is the next, October. Yeah, no, we'll have to double up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know what,
we're in the weeds.
we're on the weeds. Sir?
I just think it's extremely important, and I hear you, Commissioner Maxwell, that we as a body did meet a number of times. I don't know whether it was 20 or 25, but we did meet a number of times, and there was some 4 town hall meetings around town. But I think the message that I hear a lot from the community is we really didn't understand exactly what was proposed. It wasn't written down. We didn't really have an opportunity to weigh in on it. Some concerns that we did weigh in didn't seem to get incorporated. And I think the overall message that I'm getting is, although we may have tried to have meetings and public meetings, empirically, I don't think the community is very convinced that we did a good job of getting. And you could say, well, we tried and we did our best and that's good enough, except what we're doing with that, and it comes to the financing, is we're asking all of this community to pay for this. And at that point, it becomes extremely important that we bend over backwards to find out how can we get the best ideas, how can we get ideas that there's broad support for, much better than a 50-50 support, but you want to have 60-80% of your community saying, this is a great idea, we're totally behind, and here's our walking wallet we're opening up because we support this. That's our goal. That should be our measure of whether we're getting there.
Hopefully we'll be able to get there.
Real quick, I'm okay with it coming back to us for another discussion, but I'm not okay for it to be put on and pushed to in October. I agree that, we need to talk about this, but if we indeed are going to communicate to the community, with the holidays and everything, it really can't be before January.
Well,
You need enough
I didn't
time.
mean to put it on the discussion about what this meeting is.
Okay,
'Cause
because, as much as I think we need to be having it,
I need some specificity,
I
exactly.
think the community needs enough time, so we don't have that problem with them not being noticed, and, we make sure that we do it right.
Okay. And my last comment with regard to homelessness, Mr. McGivern, I absolutely agree with you. It's a very frustrating issue for me. I'm learning more and more about it every day. In fact, I just learned here a few weeks ago, there's basically 2 types of homeless people. There's homeless, and then there's what they call the chronic homeless. There are people that are homeless because of unfortunate circumstances. They lost the job, an illness in the family, and they were wiped out financially, whatever. And it's usually a short-term situation. Those are the type of individuals that are willing to work with others, agencies or whatever, and get back on their feet, and they're not homeless very long. Then there's the other group who choose homelessness as a lifestyle. They choose this as a lifestyle, and they hide behind their constitutional rights. Not that their constitutional rights are bad, I don't want to be misquoted or have that spun, but, like it was said earlier, everybody is entitled to the same freedoms and entitled to the same law protection of the laws. It's a very difficult subject to deal with. However, Mr. McGivern, if you want to get with me, I know a presentation that I can offer you that I had the benefit of participating in just a month ago, and I'll share it with you, something that's interesting that's being done up in the Panhandle. But it does require collaboration and cooperation from a lot of agencies, a lot of nonprofits, local government, business community. It's a huge undertaking, but it's a model that apparently is working up in the Panhandle on some level. I'd be happy to share that presentation with you. I don't know if we've ever get any legs on it here in Palm Beach County. There's been a lot of great work done here in Palm Beach County in the effort to curb homelessness. There's been a lot of money put towards the issue of homelessness. But it just seems the more money we put at it, the more effort we put into it. Numbers are numbers, and they're relative. Our population continues to grow, and unfortunately the demographics, the percentages of the different types of people within that demographic continues to grow. So it's going to be an uphill battle, but if you're interested, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to get that presentation for you. Any other final comments? And I apologize for not asking for your comments. Let's move on to